Of course, other people do it differently, but I maybe I want to walk the same path. I want to show other artists. I want to support other artists, but probably not in the same way that other people do. I can rewrite my own story.
It really ties into, this question of like what one's goals are and what one actually is trying to accomplish. And I think, tying that into the question of, where are you aiming? You never can go wrong with it. It will always come back. That investment of time and energy and effort will always pay off in some way. Doing this every day, like, that is the one blessing that I'm just really try to never take for granted, and making enough money that I can make a living from this. Like, every day I wake up and I go, thank you. Figure out what is the apex of what you want to see. What do you think should exist in this world visually? And do everything in your power to accomplish that. Do the labor, work hard at it, get as close as you can to it.
Okay, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you for having me. I'm so excited to be taking part.
I am equally excited. Before we begin, let me ask this question. How long does it take you to make one piece? I mean, I was blown away. I was like, how many hours? How long do you stay in the studio every day?
Oh my God, that's a good question. So every piece is different. So there's the bigger pieces, which can take months, and then there's the smaller pieces, which can take weeks or just a month. So for example, like the pieces that are the butterfly, like where there's butterflies around the faces and things like that, those are my fastest.
Wow.
Because I feel really confident drawing faces. And, that's what I've been doing since I was a kid, is drawing I just love drawing faces. It's one of my favorite things to do. Yeah. It's just, I don't know why I still, all like 15 years later, I still get a kick out of it. So that's definitely the fastest. But even those are still, in some cases, 3 weeks, a month. It depends. Sometimes faster, sometimes shorter. The bigger pieces can be, one of my recent ones for my solo show, it's on and off. I'll be working on it on and off for maybe, 3 or 4 months, so to speak. And I'll take a break from it, and then I'll come back to it, and I'll work on it, and then I'll sit back from it. So it's kind of hard to answer.
How many pieces do you work at a time?
Sometimes I try to keep it to 2 at the max, as crazy as that sounds. But with my recent solo show, I had to kind of, that was different, obviously. So that had, I think, a total of like 21, 22 pieces. And you want to make sure all of the work is cohesive with each other, right? Yeah. So, I would focus on 1 to 2 at a time. And then as the show got closer and closer, then I kind of started spreading out and, polishing all of them all at once, if that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. I think I approach similarly.
I saw your work, by the way, and it's really, really beautiful as well.
Thank
like the
you
embellishments
so much.
and things like that. Yeah, there's like this one portrait piece that just like blew my mind, that I just loved.
I have this question, so a little context. When I started painting, I mean, I think I was more influenced by crafts all my life because I was into it. I was into fashion. I was doing a lot of embroideries always. My mom was a big, I come from that background. But painting was something that, as an act of practice, I started when I decided, I started getting into the arts a couple of years ago, 5, 6 years, 7 years. But what I realized when I actually started out, I had this huge burst of colors. So my palette at that point was a lot of colorfuls, Then I eventually figured myself, I don't know how, but it became a lot more restricted colors. There's a lot more gold. There's a huge amount of black. And then I don't know why. And I see the same with you because you have the same color palette as I do. Do you ever feel this urge, this urge to have colors, and do you balance it off in another way? How do you approach your work in that context?
That's a great question. So I know for me, it's funny because I'm actually going like almost like the opposite trajectory that you're talking about, where I'm wanting to integrate more color. But the reason that I started out without color is because when I was first starting out, um, you know, to me, what's really important in my work is that there's a balance between lights and darks and
Okay.
tight patterns and open patterns. Like, painters compose their work in terms of light.
Yes.
I compose my work in terms of pattern. And, which is why there's that kind of a flatness feel to
Yeah.
it. And I found that by limiting my palette to just a couple of different tones, it enabled me to really focus on perfecting that and really getting that down. And so now I'm finding myself slowly, very gently, very slowly integrating more and more. Although I also, that's one reason. The other reason
Yes.
is because I always really liked there's an artwork by Da Vinci. I'm forgetting the official name of it, but it's unofficially called the Burlington House cartoon. And if you look at it, it just has one of the most glorious, it feels like a sacred object. I don't know any other way to
Yeah.
describe it.
Yeah.
And I was always so inspired by that limited color palette. To me, kind of lends this feeling of an artifact or something that's very ancient, and I really like that effect. So
Yeah.
I am working to integrate some more color in, but what I'm working on right now is making sure that I keep that kind of aged feel to it,
I love
without
that.
just exploding with a ton of, because I've integrated red, and I think that does continue to keep that older feel. But now there's greens and purples I'm playing with. Although, don't quote me on it. It might all fall apart. It might not work. This is just what I've been working on. And God knows it does fall apart all the time.
No, but that's strange.
So
That's a process,
yeah,
isn't it? I mean,
yeah,
look at this work. Like I made just,
I
I think
love
two
that.
years,
Yeah.
3 years back, and I've worked. If you would see, like I really have like a transitional. Like every time I feel like a work is finished, and then I evolve, and I look at it, I'm like, no, this isn't finished, and then I go back in. So this one was
Yeah.
actually full of colors, and as I evolved,
Oh,
I was like,
was it
no,
really?
yeah, and
Wow.
like I
It's
feel like
beautiful.
this. Thank you. I feel like there's this transition where I feel like I will have this sudden urge of having colors around me or in my work, and I
Yeah.
would make something and paint something, and that would satisfy my soul. But I always felt like
Mm.
that part of me was dwells into some part of my life. But if I feel like really who I am, I would always gravitate towards the palette that I'm working on right now, with a tinge of play here and there. And when I saw your work, something that came to my mind, mystic. That is what,
That's, that's good. That's good. That warms my heart, because that's definitely, I love magic.
yeah,
And mystic and things like that. It just makes me happy. That kind of thing. That kind of childlike imagination really
yeah,
undergirds all of it.
yeah.
But I don't know. So okay, that makes me really happy to hear you say that,
No,
because
and actually,
it's
so
definitely what
that's,
I'm going for.
you know what, so that's how I describe my work and my aesthetic is like the Maharani. I don't know if you, so Maharani is the Hindu word,
Mm-hmm.
or the Hindi
Okay.
word for royals. And so a queen,
Oh yeah.
a
Yeah.
royal queen. And I
Yeah.
have always been inspired, like I love the Indian aesthetic of these royal palaces who have like these golds and like these lights. I have always loved like this, like a black sari and those gold jewelries and like,
Sabyasachi kills me.
oh
Sorry,
my
side note.
goodness.
Right?
Oh my God.
Like that's like those are the influences. Like that is to me one of the highest forms of art. Was the stuff that he's creating is just like beyond comprehension beautiful. But anyway, please continue. I'm sorry.
This thing, like I have this new set in the studio now, which is like a um, hand carved handcraft furniture, and I got it from, like, India has so much influence in that context, like how
Mm.
it's one side is this royal colorful beautiful bright colors, but
Yeah.
something that I obsess over is like the royal side of it, the royal palaces, the carpets, the lights and the
Yeah.
reds and the golds and the blacks and the drawings and all of that.
Yeah. Yeah, the visual density,
Oh
like
my God.
that is just so, it's just almost, but I think the thing I've always, that's so amazing about it is there's so much visual density and yet there's harmony. It's
Yes.
so hard to have so much decoration and yet make everything feel harmonious and balanced. And yet Indian aesthetic typically, like, that is, again, like I think I've said earlier, masters at that.
Like, I think, and that is what art, and I feel like the bridge of art and life is, like, how it
Yeah.
bridges, like the clothes we wear. Like, I think India, in its context, in its original context, like my mom's wardrobe, I splurge over it. Like the jewelry she
Yeah.
had, and
Yeah.
I think, and you start to find that connection within you and who you are and where you
Yeah.
want to be, even if that means, like, in terms of your mindset, in terms of what you're imagining and what you're dreaming, you feel like you're being teleported
Yeah.
into a place that maybe or may not exist. Where do you think your influence of this is coming from?
I majored in what's in something called commercial illustration,
Okay.
which as a field is going through a lot of upheaval right now. But I kind of realized when I was there that it wasn't what I wanted to do. But the reason I never felt like I could go into fine art was because my influences were so different from what a lot of the people I knew who were, doing fine art
Indie.
were. Yeah, so my influences tend to be, uh, a lot more decorative, a lot
Yeah.
more, people, I think somebody would call it, you know, like a lot more, I love like the pre-Raphaelites. I love, I adore pre-Raphaelites. I love Alphonse Mucha, all of that, Gustav Klimt. But in
I
addition to
love.
all of them, Klimt, and like I mentioned earlier, one of my recent obsessions is Sabyasachi, and I'm like obsessed with his
Oh,
patterns and his jewelry design. And but then there's also Japanese aesthetics. Like I'm obsessed with this artist named Fuyuko Matsui who works with. She does something called I'm gonna butcher the pronunciation on this, ukiyo e,
okay.
Japanese. Let's get Japanese silk painting.
Oh wow,
So
yes, yes.
yeah, yeah. So there's a million different, and then obviously Da Vinci is
Yes,
like an
absolutely.
undergirding influence with all of that. And everyone from the Renaissance and
Renaissance.
Botticelli and all of that. So it's like you take all of that and Harry Potter.
Oh yes, it's like the Baroque age mixed with neoclassics and, like, yeah, the vintage and the royals all coming together.
I love it. Yeah, and I think, you take all of that, you put it in a pot and then you mix it with the fact that I also really love like fantasy books and
Yeah,
like I love
I can make that out.
like yeah, like Wheel of Time series, Brandon Sanderson. Yeah, so like I'm a big reader. So yeah, you take all of that, you put it in a pot and then you put in like all of that and I guess what I make is kind of what comes out right now. So
Did your work always look like this? What kind of work were you doing before this?
one of the really wonderful things about Pratt was that, which was the college I went to,
Yes.
was there was a real push to explore and try as many things as possible. So, I learned how to paint, although I'm garbage at oil paint. I cannot do it. I don't know why it just doesn't click with me. I'm really bad at it. But yeah, everything from oil paint to doing sculpture to doing woodworking to collage. Um, so because of my schooling, I got to do
A
almost
lot of
like all sorts of medium, which was great. And as I continued to refine, through this process, I kept asking this question, like if I were to close my eyes and walk into a gallery and see the most unbelievable, to me, how I define the most unbelievable jaw-dropping work ever, what does that look like? And I would try to imagine what that looks like, and I would sit with it and I would envision it. And I try to do this exercise at least once a year because it kind of guides the next steps.
yeah.
So my work has kind of it's come into where it is.
Yeah.
But I don't know if that, yeah, I didn't mean to go off on a whole separate
No,
tangent.
no. Please go. Please go. But that's why we are here.
Yeah. yeah, so that's kind of how it develops. And I found that that exercise in particular really helps crystallize that vision. Like, okay, this is where
Yeah.
I want to go. Like this is where I want to be.
But okay, tell me
Hmm.
something. How do you bridge this gap between, what's striking me right now is like the work that you create is this, it feels like this whole world that you're creating within you,
Mm,
this mystical and like magical. You have these
mm,
faces and um the butterflies, the flowers, the golds, and like, you know versus when I see you, I can feel that, as you're saying, like with our work, and I feel this in within me too, like with our work, we are slowly navigating of who we either truly are, irrespective of where
mm.
how we are at that point, and navigating our
Yeah,
ways through that.
yeah, 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 absolutely. No, I think that that's a really, really good way of putting it. And I think it's a process of finding what brings, what makes you excited to sit
Yeah,
down and create. Like, I think, it's this process of figuring out, like, what what do you this is for me, and I feel like it must be the same for you. What do I feel would be really, really wonderful if it existed? Like, what
yeah.
aesthetically do I think would be kind of, what is the apex of what I want to see,
See,
you know, in the world? And that, through that process, it's kind of this going down a rabbit hole of joy, I guess. I know that
yeah.
sounds really like trite and,
Mm.
you know, whatever, but I really, really feel like that's what it is, the creative
Yeah,
process. Like, I
yeah.
don't really buy this myth of the creative needs to have darkness and
Oh,
sadness and
absolutely not.
all of this. No, it's just, I like, that's when I make my worst work, is when I'm
Yeah,
depressed.
absolutely, absolutely.
Like, I don't know. But that's just me. Everyone's different. I'm sure there are other artists who are saying, absolutely not. Humanity's greatest works come from suffering. That's like, I can't argue. I don't know. Just me.
I think it's a great point, and I would really like to point about this, or like, just share what I feel.
Mm.
I think the
Sure,
past
please.
2 years, ever since I lost my mom, I had
I'm
this like
sorry.
I had this intense grief, pain that
Of
I've never,
course.
never, never, never experienced, and
Yeah.
I really wouldn't like, as much as I hate to say this, as much as I
Mm.
hate to say this, at some point I thought, like, everybody says, like, I never had like, I didn't, I had, you know, I didn't have any kind of like extreme pain before, my mom, something like life
Mm.
changing and traumatizing as this. It was pretty hard. And ever since those 2 years, things have felt very different and harder with everything that happened and continues. I was extremely blocked. I felt I just never had the courage to get into the studio. I was struggling. But at the back of my mind, I always kept saying, like, maybe if I have this profound grief within me, maybe
Mm.
that's going to bring out the artist in me, because that's how, like how, that's what we've taught. From my personal experience, that never happened. I never found joy in creating. But here's something interesting that happened through those times and months and year of feeling that pain. I figured that that pain, whenever I brought that pain to my work, it was taking me away from my work even more, because I felt that
Mm.
pain so much, and that then something that I truly loved was creating and my own work. When I was bringing that pain within that, it would constantly remind me of that, and it was taking away the joy, and it didn't work for me.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I felt like, okay, I was going here and there, and then something happened.
Yeah.
The work that I'm creating now, I feel personally, for me, I've never felt so much attached. I have never felt so much aligned. And honestly, I will not credit my pain for that. I will credit
Yeah.
that when I felt that I was feeling that pain in my work, because I did try to process my pain in my work, because I had to consume my feelings in some way. But when the moment I started to actually relieve my pain and think of it, so my body work or the work that I'm doing really started when I started thinking about my mom. The things brought me joy, like her jewelry, like her love for fashion, her clothes, my
Oh, wow.
culture, my heritage. And I wanted to find comfort, and I couldn't find that comfort in the pain, but I could find comfort, the pain in to go away from that pain. So now when I step into the studio, I'm not thinking
In the
about,
love.
yes, and I'm
Yeah.
celebrating, and I'm preparing for a solo show, and that's happening on,
Congratulations.
thank you. And that's actually happening in Arts to Hearts. It's going to be, I haven't put it this out yet, but we're working on the gallery opening. And I was like, my mom's death anniversary is coming, and I always dread that day. I cannot, and my mom's anniversary and my birthday, and all of these things come together. And I was like, I want to skip this month. I'm like, you know what? I'm going to celebrate her. She always wanted me to do this. We are going to open the gallery. I'm going to do a solo show, and it's going to be just on the day when she passed away, because I don't want to do it. I mean, I'd rather live that day celebrating her than I would dread that day. And
Please
and
continue.
something that's the notion. Sometimes people um, tell you the half story, and they don't actually tell you the other half of the story. So yes, if I technically see, pain really changed my work of, way of working, my work and everything. But it wasn't the dwelling on the pain that brought all of this. It was choosing not to dwell in it and to find joy into it, to create, like, and I was like, you know what, I'm going to make this show like a dream show that I know that is going to celebrate her, like the real royalness, and like, all of those things that I would have wished she would have been here. But if she isn't, I'm still going to celebrate her.
Yeah, absolutely. And you know that she like is looking down in her way and like would almost prefer that. I think that's really, really beautiful. And it sounds like such a great, yeah, a great approach to it too, to open on that day. And I think that there is something to be said, like there are artists I know who have processed grief through their
Yeah.
work. Like they've brought that anger, that sadness, or that depression, and they've brought it to their work, and they've processed their
Yes.
work that way. And that can happen too, and that can work. I think it's when there's that stereotype of needing to be a tortured
Yes.
artist to
Yes.
be successful, and that's the one that I think I personally take issue with.
Yes.
But I don't know, I guess.
Did you ever feel unworthy, or let's say with
Every day. Every day. Like this whole thing, I really thought, sorry, actually, I don't want to interrupt you and just jump
No.
in, but I have a
No,
feeling
no.
where you're going with
Yes.
this. No, yeah, you know what? It's so funny because I think when I was in college and, I hit a point where I was like, I need to do this. Like, I'm going to make a living from art and I have to figure out a way to do it. And my work was not very good in college. Like, I was, not nowhere near near even like the medium level. Like all of my classmates, if there's a spectrum of the best people. This pertains to what you were going to ask, I promise. So like in terms of like, if there was a skill set hierarchy and like the students who struggled the most were here and the best students are here, I was solidly right here. And there was a point where I was like, I need to get better. I need to get a lot better if I'm going to be successful at this. And I remember thinking to myself, like, one of the things I noted throughout my early 20s was, well, first off, that was a really hard but necessary period of growth. But there was this constant distant carrot of, okay, when I get into a gallery, when I show in a group show in my first gallery, then I'm going to feel like I'm enough.
Yes. Yes.
And then it was when I sell X number of pieces,
Yeah.
then I'm going to be enough. Then it was when I sell out a show, whatever, then I'm going to feel like enough.
Yeah.
And then it's like when I have a solo show, and this just happened, then I'm going to be enough. And finally, I kind of realized recently, it's like, I'm never going to feel like I made it. Like it's never going to feel, it's always going to feel scary because, you can look at it from the outside and it seems like everything's working and fine. And like, and I feel so lucky and blessed to be doing this every day. Like that is the one blessing that I'm just really try to never take for granted, and making enough money that I can make a living from this. Like every day I wake up and I thank you. But that feeling of having it figured out, feeling like I'm safe, feeling like everything's going to work,
not gonna happen.
It's never going to. I really think I've come to terms recently. It's like, this is an illusion, and that's okay. It's okay that it's an illusion. I think that's where you were going, right? Like because I completely steamrolled you.
No, I think this is great because you spoke about something that I think we all like. We seem to find this validation that comes from external matters, like, okay, you will have a solo show, or if people like your work enough, if you do this enough, if you do that, if you have these people in your, in your circle, if you have this gallery in your name, if you have this, and like, there's so many levels of feeling worthy that and I think the more, I think as I have grown in the past couple of years, I have always felt that as you grow, that aspiration of feeling worthiness also grows with you. So it's like, you got that show, but by the time you got that show, you realize your aspirations have gone. Like, at least that's been the trajectory for me.
No, 100%. No, it is. It's your aspirations grow. And then also this illusion of security, never quite like, yes, you get a bit more secure. Yes, you're able to, like, if you're selling your work for a higher price, every time you sell a piece, you get a bit more security, right? And so that's true.
But you know what? I want to say about something about this. I think sometimes it's not security. I think as I've grown older and with everything I've built, my conviction, I think what's changed is my conviction has changed. My conviction has changed as much. I think before I didn't know what was possible and how I made that possible. Today I've done quite a few things that I know how I did it. I know that I made everything from the scratch. And if I could do now, sure, I have a little money. I know at least I'm not fending off the streets, or like, I don't have enough.
Yes.
But
absolutely.
I also know if I go back there, I still know how to get back up. What's different? That was different.
That is one of I would say the most gratifying facets of this process of artistic growth is, continuing to learn, continuing to grow, continuing to improve upon where you are, where you're trying to go. I think, that you could get there again. And I think, I feel the same way to a certain degree. There's another part of me that feels like I was very lucky. Like there was a lot of luck in Taylor for me as well at every step of the way. Like very, very blessed to be able to go to art school first, starting point. Like, especially in the United States, like where school is so expensive. And, so that was very, very that was a privilege. And other things like the privilege of being able to live in New York City. And so I totally agree with you. There's a facet where it's like, okay, I know how to get there again. But then there's another facet of, man, there was a lot that I was just really breathtakingly lucky with, and it would be remiss to also acknowledging that.
Yeah, I do understand that fact. I think privileges, but I think I would really like to add something that I think there's no such thing as just luck and just hard work. I think we are all definitely a lot more privileged. We have roofs over our head, foods on the table.
Yes.
I think that is a privilege. Yes. Apart from that, I think we have to always like you have to make things work. You have to constantly like work towards it, even if it's not working at that point. I think that's something I've learned, at least, that I mean, I have done so many things in the past few years that haven't worked at all. Like I would keep at it, keep at it, keep at it, keep at it, keep at it. And at times, I mean, I've closed 2 businesses.
Me too.
I did a fashion, I did a fashion design course. I started a fashion business. I made clothes. And when I decided to shut that down, I was so miserable because I felt like a failure. I felt like everything I had prepared my life for, because I always wanted to be a fashion designer. And when I did it, and I felt like, okay, I have wasted all of these years of education, hard work, creativity, and I don't know what to
Yeah.
do with it. For a very long time, my work had nothing to do with it. And suddenly it came here. Now my work is all about it. Like, I'm using all of those skills, all of my, I never let go of my materials. Can you imagine?
Yeah.
My
Yeah.
first box of embellishments from that like from that business that I'd never let go. I was like, I just can't let go of these embroideries. I don't know what do I do with it, but I just need to keep it.
I
And
need to hold on to them. Yeah.
yes, and I moved. I used to live, like, I still live on rental apartments, but
Mhm.
I used to have very small spaces and barely fit in myself. And I would have like these, I love holding things. So I would hold
Yeah.
these things and then I would move from one apartment to another for years, never use them. One day during the lockdown, I was like, I don't know, I feel like, let me do something with this. I opened that box and that was my first day of adding embellishments to my drawings and paintings.
Yeah. Yeah. You never know. You never know where the pathways are going to take you, how the interests. And I think that it ties back into really the importance of just continuing to follow and make what you love. Because
Yeah.
I feel like so long as you hold on to that one thing,
Yeah.
it will always come back in some way. It like, so long as you're building on something that you love, you can't predict how it's going to come back
Yeah.
and contribute in your life, but it always will. Because that's the guiding principle of why
Yeah.
you make things. So that foundation, it'll always, you never can go wrong with it. It will always come back. That investment of time and energy and effort will always pay off in some way.
And if what if it doesn't? I think we are constantly, I figured, like, the more I fret about things, the harder they become. The more I let them go, they come on their own. If they need to be, when they need to be. I mean, not like a woo-woo kind of a thing, but also like I think anytime when I'm trying to push things too hard, I miss out on details that seem so obvious that when I let it go, I'm like, oh my God, that is what it was meant to do. Okay, that's how things happen. Okay, this is how it's going to work out.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I think you're completely right. I think you're completely right. It's just, yeah. And again, as well, like, I think, it's funny because, like, my husband and I had this crazy experience.
Okay.
We used to live on Maui, Hawaii,
Oh
for
wow.
about 2 years. Yeah, it's pretty great.
Never met
It
a
was pretty
soul
great.
who wouldn't say this.
Yeah, I know, right? We currently live in the Hudson Valley, just in New York. I lived in New York on and off for 13 years, but we finally decided we wanted a house and to get to the woods. But anyway, while we were in Maui, this pertains to what what we were discussing. We had the craziest thing happen, and like, this was on the news. It was a whole thing. But
Okay.
everyone got a text message on the island and, like, in all of Hawaii.
Really?
Um, yeah, intercontinental ballistic missile imminent. Take shelter. This is not a drill. Every single Hawaii resident got this text message. I was in the shower. I was taking a shower, and my husband knocked this. I promise this is irrelevant. My husband knocks on the door. I'm in the shower. I'm like, what? What? He's like, you need to get out of the shower immediately. And he
My
shows me
God.
this text. We're hearing people screaming at our window. Everyone is panicking on the island.
God.
And it's very clear, like, this was like a notice from the government, like,
Government.
saying, like, and
Get
at this
shelter.
point, there was a lot of tension with, I think it was North Korea. It was like, I mean, we didn't think that they could have the
Do
capability
something.
of sending a missile there, but
Who
when you
knows?
get this kind of a text, you're like, this is not a drill, all caps,
Yes.
every
Yes.
resident. So anyway, the whole point is, everyone thought it was real, and we thought that it was said like 17 minutes until impact was like the kind of thing.
God.
And we lived right by the harbor, like the harbor of our island. So it was like, this is, so we genuinely thought, like,
It's going to end
we
right.
really might be about to die. Like, we really might
Yeah.
be about to have this nuclear strike, like on Maui, Hawaii, but whatever.
I'm
And
having goosebumps.
I know. And, I have to say, on one hand, I was completely freaking out. But on the other hand, there was a very, very quiet voice in my heart and in my soul that, like, I paused and I said, I don't have any regrets. I
I
lived
love that.
exactly the way that I meant to. Like, I don't have any regrets. Like, if this is really it, um, you know what? Like, I have chased beauty in the things that I've loved every day, and I'm so grateful. And I've lived exactly the way that I've wanted to. And obviously, it ended up being a drill, and there was this whole inquiry, and it was a scandal, and it was a big deal, and it was on the national news, and there was no missile. And we had a gigantic Mai Tai on the beach. But I sat back after and I was like, wow, that was an interesting lesson. Like, I'm fine. Like,
God.
I have no regrets. What were you going to ask before? I'm sorry. I kind of steamrolled you.
Oh my God. I'm taken away with this story right now. I'm
Yeah.
thinking, okay.
It's kind of crazy, right?
Oh my God, this is like, and see, you know how, I mean, for someone, it wouldn't be as life changing. Like, let's say whoever did this, we don't know. I mean, what's happening, we don't
Yeah.
know. But
Yeah.
a simple text which led to nothing, let's say,
Yeah.
would have changed so many lives, because at that point for you, it was real that you
Yeah.
may or may not survive
Really
this.
thought. Yeah.
You ask yourself questions that you wouldn't have,
Mm-hmm.
like
17 minutes till a nuclear bomb might be hitting close by. Like, what the fuck? Sorry. I don't know if I'm allowed
yeah,
to swear
no,
on your podcast.
you're good.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, I have an interesting question. What changed? What made you? I'm sure when you asked yourself, you said, you just said that you felt content and you had no regrets. But the
Yeah.
moment you realized, okay, this was not real, and you still have a
Yeah.
lot more time,
Yeah.
you must have, like, I think moments like these, even though how trivial they are, they're so monumental, and they change your functioning, your wiring, in such a way that you think differently, you make your choices differently. Um,
Yeah.
how do you think has that shaped you or changed you or impacted you?
You know what? What's interesting about that is I think what it was. So, how do I answer this? So, I've always been the kind of person who has been deeply anxious.
Okay.
Like, I have a full on, like, I have had like a full on panic disorder, like the whole thing. I never have wanted to be this way, but I've always been the kind of person who, if my husband's too late at like 10:30, I'll be like, are you okay?
Very.
Like, can you just tell me, like, you're not in a car
Yeah.
accident, right? So
Yeah.
I've always kind of been like a very almost an irrationally, and my friends and family would say, anxious person. So what that manifests as, though, is that I can't
Stressing out.
help myself. I'm always, well, kind of thinking about,
How it could go wrong.
yeah, and in that way, I guess I've always thought that, like, I kind of, so as a weird result of that is, because, like, that's not healthy, that's not good. I do not recommend that way of living to anyone. But one of the weird results of that is that I'm constantly questioning, am I living according to my values? And
Yes.
what are my
Yes.
values? And, like,
Yes.
so when that happened, this is going to sound a little, like, I don't want it to sound arrogant, because that's not what it is. It's born out of something, like, not exactly healthy. But the result of it is, it was more confirmation that
Yeah.
the way I am living according to my values. And that, so the questions that, people talk about it, like, for them, they kind of sit back and are like, things in my life changed from then on. For me, it actually didn't, because I feel like I've already always kind of had a
Had
kind
that.
of, like, crazy perspective of, like, why am I doing this? What's the purpose of my life? And it confirmed it. Does that make sense? Do you know what I'm
Yeah.
saying with that?
Yeah.
Like, yeah.
Yeah.
So it was honestly more of a relief. Like, hey, man, this is great. Like, I've
I'm going in the
been
right
really,
track.
really, I'm living life the way that I really feel like I'm meant to be.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know.
Oh,
So,
wow.
but everyone's different. My husband was funny. He didn't have any reaction.
He
Like,
did?
he was like, he's so okay with death. It's like, I'm sitting here like chicken little, like, freaking out. And he's like, Alessa, if we're gonna die, like, let's just sit on the porch and smoke a cigarette. And I'm like, are you crazy? I'm freaking out. He's like way more wise.
I think I was, before my mom, I was pretty scared. I hadn't like I'd seen my grandparents passing, someone I've been very close to, felt that. So I'd seen little pockets of, this experience, but never the past 2 years, the amount of grief and pain I felt and seen, not only after my mom's passing, but also in different parts consequentially. I felt like I always felt like I was that chicken. I would lose out myself. So I've had severe anxiety, panic attacks ever since I was a child. Severe as in like really hard ones. And for the first 1.5, 2 years, they escalated to the roof, like literally to the roof. Like my partner, I think, thank God to him, like I think the way he has dealt with, because when you have someone in your life like this, it's not easy. It's not easy for them, but it's also not easy for people close to them.
Around them, of
Yeah.
course. Yeah.
But something then changed. The moment I
Mm.
started accepting that, the more real it became, the more I think what shifted was I started to find peace with it. Okay, if this is because, when I felt like I was a person who was trying to hold on to a lot of things. And then when I had to, like, I was forced by nature to open my hand and let go. And I found another way to hold that. I mean, of course, I still do so many things that I would like to hold on to my mom, the memories and whatever. But then I started to become okay with letting go, accepting
Mm.
it. And then things like switched, and like my reactions to things, like, I would
Yeah.
overthink. I still overthink a lot, but it's changed. Like I can feel that letting go. Like, okay, if this is what's going to happen, so be it. I think that
Yeah.
shifted.
It's really funny that you talk about that, because I think I've also recently, this is very, very recent. Like I said, I used to have problems with panic attacks. Like the imminent nuclear threat moment in my life did not solve that, but that was not that did not fix that. But funny enough, meditation has actually, the past 2 years, I don't want to say that it's, yeah, like I don't want to say that it's been cured. But I've really got into Buddhism, and there's a branch of spirituality in Buddhism called non-duality, and
Yes.
it's all around this kind of stuff, and like learning to really let go,
Yeah.
and also really to pay attention to the change that's constantly surrounding us, and how big the narratives are that we build up around
Yeah.
everything.
Yeah.
That has had a profound effect on, for me, my mental health and
Yes.
daily functioning and happiness.
I think this is where my part two was, and let me take
Yeah.
you there. You know, something that in our day to day, the changes in, I think, value, the question of feeling worthy, um, something when I was going through, and I still feel like I'm still in those waters, that really helped me, really, like, really, three things: my journal, getting up early in the
Mm,
morning and journaling. I
mm,
think something, if I had to credit, like really pulling me out, it wasn't the people, it wasn't anybody, it was my journal. Yoga
mm,
practice, just meditating, having yoga in my life. um, Even when I felt like I was crooked, I wasn't doing, or I was like, I didn't care about how good I was, what level of yoga I wanted to do, none of it. All that matters
yeah.
was I needed 1 hour to myself, but I could, like, I just could. And three was my
Yeah.
dogs, because that
Oh
was
yeah.
one part of my life that never, like, I think with people we feel this inhibition, like, okay, with,
Mm,
I think it's different when you have an experience like this. You try to hold yourself back, or, like, I don't know, it just works very differently. And as minute as these things are, they were the three, like, pillars of how I was driving my boat. I was like, this was my life boat. If the day I wouldn't journal, I knew I would have these thoughts that I needed to put in paper. Like, I really needed to confront myself, or I needed to have a few days I'm away with my dogs, or I'm not around them. I know that I'm not feeling that touch. I'm not feeling that love. Or if I don't give myself that 1 hour of yoga, or even if I'm not doing yoga, 1 hour of anything spiritual. India is a lot about spirituality and religion, but also
Yeah.
spirituality. So like just listening to mantras or like having hearing those things and having, praying to God or like anything like that, it it changed my world. It literally changed my world. And that is where I realized that sometimes, I think another thing I asked someone on, so Pritika Merchant is amazing Indian artist, and I asked her this question, that do you have, so this strife between decorative arts and art that needs to be political or needs to have this kind of purpose or like something profound or grief or something like that. And I always felt like, in the beginning, I always felt like, and I think a lot of artists have this problem. They feel like they have to say something that's so much profound, that has to have so much value, that has to be
Yeah.
like groundbreaking or something like that. And I twisted my way and I realized, like, for me, this is groundbreaking. For me, my journal is groundbreaking. For me, just making
And
pretty
that's enough.
flowers, yes, that's enough.
That's enough. That's enough. If it's enough for you. Sorry, I don't want to interrupt you. I totally feel so passionate about this, though.
My question part two was, did you feel the strife of making out worthy enough? Decorative art, the term decorative, the weight it brings, the weightage of saying something you have to, like, like the parameters of weight that we feel with, how good you are an artist of.
Oh my God. I think, yeah, I mean, I think that it's yes. And I think, yeah, an emphatic yes. And I think that only until I let that go, because, I learned how to, again, I went to art school in New York City, and the art world in New York City is an interesting place. On one
I
hand,
love how you
on
put
one
it.
hand, it's yeah. Well, on one hand, it's wonderful because there's so much, and it's so dense, and there's so much to absorb. On the other hand, what I make uh, isn't really seen as like part of that. It's not
Ecosystem.
seen as the important art narrative.
Art,
Like I
yeah,
I kind of had to give up in order to make what I love.
yeah,
I kind of had to give up on this idea of ever being the big fancy pants artist because,
yeah,
for example, there's really, like, I don't know of many other paths other than like the Whitney or the whatever, or the, like, I don't know, Pace Gallery, these major, major, major galleries that pieces are selling for like $1 million a pop, and the people who buy them, it's like they're being put into these like vacuum sealed, temperature controlled areas because they're investment pieces. Like, my work will never be part of that. And people are going to get like, my gallerist would probably be very annoyed with me for saying this because I'm not supposed to acknowledge this publicly or whatever. But like, come on, like, this is a fact.
yeah,
Like, what I make is, it's all of the things you're not supposed to make in the New York
yeah,
art scene. It's illustrative, which is
yes,
a red letter word, apparently. I don't care. It's illustrative as
yes,
hell.
it is.
It's decorative, which is you're not supposed to do. It's it doesn't really have a greater social commentary. It could be categorized as fantasy art by someone. And you know what? I'm making it because I absolutely love it, and I found that the people who collect it, the people who love it, I had to kind of acknowledge that at a certain point. I was like, you know what? Screw it. I'm not
Yes,
trying to get into any of these. But I know what will happen is I am going to make this my whole life.
yes,
I'm never going to stop. This is my raison d'etre, right? This is like my entire, what I've dedicated my life to. And I had to kind of accept that path isn't a path I'm going for,
I'm going.
and that I'm going for a completely different path. Like, it doesn't need to be super important. It doesn't need to be historic. It doesn't need to be anything like that. What it needs to be is, it needs to be the apex of what I want to see. And it needs to
Yeah,
be what I like, and screw what everybody else thinks. And the result of that I found is that I'm finding more success than I ever have.
I have.
And it took a long time for me to kind of come to terms with that, to be like, you know what? I'm just going to, and I'm going to make what I love. And now all these pathways are opening up to me that I would
You-
never have foreseen,
yeah.
and there are many, many, many people who resonate with it and who love it and who I never would have foreseen. And not only that, but with the internet and with social media, which is a double-edged sword. But with my ability to self-produce my own prints, with all of this, like I am able to kind of control this, what is starting to become a robust world, and I can connect with these people directly. Yeah, I think that it's poison to try to focus on being the big important artist when it's,
And what is that?
I don't even know. It's someone who's trying to be in a history book. I don't freaking know.
And how do
It's
you?
and that's
And I remember. Okay, so this happens
yeah.
quite a few times. I'll tell you. I started, and I think about this moment a lot. So I swear on God. I remember
Yeah.
getting into the arts. I'd never put together mm, an artist portfolio, artist statement, quite a few years, like some few years ago. And I remember I was speaking to someone at that point I was working with. She was an artist. And I remember she shared her CV and whatever that was with me. And nothing to disregard, but I think that I mean I'll be honest. So I read, and even today I read this in a lot of submissions that we receive. I think every month we go through hundreds of or thousands also of artist profiles and their bios, and it only pushes me to do more as an artist from this
Of
side of the
course.
world
Yeah.
to the other side of the world, because I'm like, someone please tell them the truth, someone please tell them the truth, someone please tell them the truth.
Yeah.
And I read in that CV, and she was like, her passion or her goal was to be in the museum, or how she's striving towards working in the museum, or be
Mm,
or part of the history. And I didn't have any of those profound words in my anywhere, and
mhm.
have never had so far. And I was like, and I felt very belittled, and I felt like, okay, maybe my purpose is not strong enough, maybe I am not strong enough an artist, or maybe I'm just, the idea of being too commercial. And I was like, okay, and worked my way through these years. And I realized, okay, I'm looking at these women. So let's say, I don't know if you follow Oscars or something. Um,
Mhm.
so Guneet Monga is an Indian producer who just India won its Oscar for the first time.
Oh, so exciting. That's
Yes.
amazing. That's
Yes.
great.
And it's a
Okay.
big victory. And not
Yeah.
only one Oscar, two Oscars, and one for a completely
Wow.
Indian song. And it was like a whole thing. Maria from Dior is visiting India. All this while, Dior is doing its first Indian show, a heritage show with India, to share its like
Yeah.
legacy and celebrate and all of that. And I was like, that question, or this question that I had put myself into, that am I not doing enough? Like, I have not enough aspirations to be in the history books? And you ask yourself these questions. I'm like, what am I
Yeah.
doing wrong? Why do
Yeah.
I not feel?
Yeah.
And I'm like,
Yeah.
this woman made history. She brought two women, brought the first Oscar to India. Very ordinary women, never was a filmmaker. She was like, you know it wasn't a big budget film, it was a beautiful, beautiful documentary.
Yeah.
And she made history, and she never had those goals. And I was looking, I know Guneet through a friend of a friend, and
Oh,
wonderful
wow.
person, so 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 humble. And
Yeah.
and I was like, you know what, if you want to be in the history books, you have to dare do something that your soul calls for, and maybe that's not a path that's often taken. Like, you want to
Yeah.
be in a book. I think if anyone who's listening, I think I
Yeah.
totally, and I firmly believe this, I live by this. If you really want to pursue and be in the books of history, and do
Yeah.
something
All of that.
that's original, that's you, that nobody else
That's
has
you.
done.
Yeah.
And if
Totally.
that makes aesthetic art, make
Yeah.
that. If that means you want to climb the wall, do that. Or I don't know, I mean, we've
Yeah.
repetitively heard this so far, like, okay, this is good art. I remember I have shared this 1,000 times on the podcast. Like, when I
Yeah.
entered into the arts, I was like, so I came from fashion design. And I still feel I don't have a profile. I just, if someone asks me, I just don't know. I have so many experiences so far, still have 3 jobs, like three different roles.
Yeah.
I run Arts to Arts. I have a studio practice. I work with another business, build that for all these years. So I love all of those three. I just cannot. It does not mean I love one less or more. Yeah, but there are seasons that I work on one more and the other less. But that's who I
Yeah.
am. It's not a traditional path. When I started, like, this space, same gallery space, studio space, I started to, when I decided that I wanted to make a gallery, and I was like, who am I to make a gallery? I do not want to be a gallerist. I definitely don't want to be a gallerist. I have no intention, but I am an artist, and I know the gap it takes. And I grew up in this very town, never seeing an artist in my life, never seeing a show, never seeing an art. And I want to open up a space that other girls growing up here have the chance. I want to share the gift of, if I have access to the space, I want to open a gallery that is artist run. And I do not want to be a gallerist. I want to be an artist who works with other artists, that creates space for, sometimes you have to change that narrative. Of course, other people do it differently, but I want to walk the same path. I want to show other artists. I want to support other artists, but probably not in the same way that other people do. I can rewrite my own story. Oh my God, I took so much space.
Yeah. No. I think that what you were talking about was completely on the money, and it's exactly it. I think it really ties into, this question of like what one's goals are and what one actually is trying to accomplish. And I think, tying that into the question of, where are you aiming? And how I actually am of the opinion that to aim for the history books or the Oscar, if you aim for that, I'm of the opinion that can be a cancer in one's practice.
Yes.
And I'm of the opinion that it's like truly, like, because what it does is it takes love at the center of your practice. Love, joy, the things that move you, the things that excite you, the things that make you want to get up and, make you feel electrified creatively. It takes that as the center of your practice, and then it puts a secondary thing there, which is other people's opinions, history's opinion, all of these other things. And that to me is a black hole, because you can't, first off, you can't control what people think. And second, you can't control what you like. This is the thing. It's like, it just is what it is. There are artists out there who are making unbelievable, historically important work, who are going to be featured in the MoMA, the Met, whatever. And that is their truth, and that is their joy. That is their truth. And like, they don't need this black hole. I really believe this. They don't need this black hole of, I need to get into Gagosian and then I will be happy. Maybe that could be totally wrong. Maybe a lot of them do need that. I don't know, whatever. That's just not the kind of life I would want to live. I think it's much, a creative life, in my opinion, is much richer.
Yes.
If it only has this as the foundation, then you see what flowers as a result of that. I'm of the opinion that, even if it's an afternoon practice after work, or a Sunday, like people deride you
have to be in the studio all the time. I support this.
Just so long as there's a consistency that brings you joy. Like even if it's every Sunday, who cares?
Yes.
You're still being an artist. You're still sitting down. You're still following the things you love. That black hole, though, I think, and that's a lot of the source of the angst and the creating work that's inauthentic, that doesn't ring true, is because it's not authentic. It's being created from a goal of what they imagine everyone else will applaud. And you always can tell when work is being made from that perspective. In my opinion, you always can tell when there's a lack of authenticity there.
And I say this a lot on the podcast. Like, for me, art and artists are never too different. Sometimes I fall in love with the art, and when I meet the artist, I fall out of love. Sometimes. I'm not saying, like, I'm just trying to give an example.
I had that happen once or twice too, where it's like, man, it's kind of a bummer,
And it's vice versa. Sometimes I'm not such a big fan of someone's work, but the moment I meet them, the moment I speak to them, I hear them, it's like I can touch their soul. And when I
Yeah.
look at their art again, and I'm like, this is the best thing in the world. And
Yeah.
my lens changed, my meanings change, my perspective changes. And I figured for me that center was always, and that's why it says arts to hearts. That's why we're on arts to
I
hearts.
love that.
For me,
Totally.
that heart, um, the purpose, I think that is so much more important to me. And
Mhm.
whatever aesthetics it brings out is always, like, it can take vice versa, but I will always circle back to how you make me feel and what
Yeah.
values I share with you than
Yeah.
just the work that you make.
Yeah. No, 100%. And I think, no, it completely makes sense. And it's, you can, I feel like you can, yeah, you can get a sense, I feel like, from people's work where, yeah, where are they coming from? What's the point? I also, just as a note, I also want to be very emphatically state, like, I'm not saying that about, like, what I was saying earlier, also does not apply to all artists who are working in those spheres of, like, this more, the higher end art, the very, very expensive art. Like, there are artists working in that space who make breathtaking, transcendent work, and you can tell it's their truth. You can tell. I'm more talking about, I think, people who are trying to break into it, and
Yeah.
yeah, that's kind of more what I'm referring to.
Yeah, I think you're, yeah, because I think even if you speak to all of these people, like, I remember
Yeah.
first time connecting with Ritika, she's beautiful, her work is gorgeous. Um, and she's doing tremendously amazing work as an artist from Southeast Asia, all over the world.
Mm.
And when I met her, honestly, I never felt like, I just, how do I explain it? Like, it felt like I was talking to someone who was still as fresh, who was still that same person, that rawness. And like, she didn't set out her path, or like, I'm sure a lot of people, I speak with so many people that have spoken in the past few years. Like, nobody comes and says, oh, I intended to be here. Or, yeah, of course, they have aspirations. But the aspiration to keep going and to keep creating was way more higher. That was their guiding light. They kept on
Yeah.
going, they kept on doing, and
Yeah.
nothing above, nothing beneath. Just, it's like, you just keep going on the path, and then whatever comes your way. I think nobody sets out that I'm going to sell $1 million painting and that is my goal of life.
My purpose in life.
Yes, yes. and I feel I wish more abundance to artists every day. But yeah, and also having financial abundance is great, yeah. But you don't, I think the idea that you set on that path, that I'm going to create something every day, if it sells for 100 or 1 million or 2 million or in a Sotheby, like, no matter if it's on a shop or in a museum, I'm still
Yeah.
going to be me. That's who I
Yeah.
am.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think it's the key. I think, and that's one of the most beautiful things about an art practice to me, is it is a consistent distillation. It actually references what you were saying earlier. It's a consistent distillation and a whittling away of, what am I not and what am I?
Am
You
I?
know, what do I move towards? What do I move away from? And and I think also there's the importance of silence and really sitting
Oh
with it, and
yes, oh yeah,
like, um yeah, I think it's funny, like, this ties back into
yes,
spirituality, but I found that been studying Advaita Vedanta. I probably, like, butchering that
yes.
pronunciation, and stuff like that kind of also really helps sitting with it. But anyway, yeah. So, oh, I love this. This is great. Yeah.
I think a studio practice is like life. It
Hmm.
really brings you to the ground. No matter how much you sell your art for, you're the
Yeah.
same person scrubbing that, erasing that
Yeah.
pencil, sharpening that pencil,
Yeah.
mm,
Yeah.
you know
No matter what.
clearing.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's you, like, you are doing the dirty work whenever you need to. Like, it still
Oh,
brings you
yeah.
back to the ground, no matter how
Oh,
fancy
yeah.
those walls look like, no matter, like, when you're getting your hands dirty, it's a reminder of who you are. I think that's very important.
No, it's good. I think, I don't know. That's such a good, got my soul singing this morning.
Hell of a conversation. Oh my God, thank you so much.
Well, thank you. Thank you for having me. And this has been like so awesome, soul feeding kind of. I can't believe I talked about the Maui story. It's like, I don't think I've ever like public, like that's when I say for like dinner parties.
I'm still thinking that story. I'm going to tell quite
Yeah.
a few people now. Like anytime I have a
Yeah.
like wonderful conversation, I'm like, oh my god, you know what? This is something I learned today. Oh, can you
Yeah.
believe this story? That's going to be
Like,
my dinner conversation.
I know, I know. I really wish, yeah, my husband,
Oh,
he's like, yeah, he
God
was
bless
the
him.
MVP that day. So, yeah.
Okay, I have a rapid fire for you. Are you ready?
Sure, sure. Let's go. Yeah, I'm
Okay.
ready.
1, 2, 3, start. Okay, here we go. What inspired to become an artist?
I have always drawn and I've always been making up worlds since I was a child. And, since I was literally a kid, and that was what started me drawing was I would try to visually bring to life these worlds that I was making. And in a lot of ways, I have just never stopped, you know. So yeah,
Don't ever.
yeah.
What is the most important lesson you've learned throughout your career?
Oof. There have been a lot. I think it's what we spoke about earlier, which is the importance of, keeping away the voices of just follow what you love.
Yeah.
Keep out that perspective of what you think other people will like. Keep out that perspective of what will become of me. This isn't going to be successful. People aren't going to like this. Screw it all. Just listen to what you love and bring it as far, and also do the labor of bringing
Yeah.
it to the apex of what you want to see. Like, that doesn't mean that your practice is just enjoyable. It means that you have a vision. This is
Intention.
just for me. Everyone's different. Maybe some people need a purely enjoyable practice. That's fine. But for me, how it's manifested is figure out what is the apex of what you want to see. What do you think should exist in this world visually? And do everything in your power to accomplish that. Do the labor. Work hard at it. Get as close as you can to it.
What was the best piece of advice you've received so far by another artist?
I guess I think about, I had a teacher in college named Chang Park, who always emphasized, to the point of the previous question, never compromise your aesthetic. And I think it's a really good phrase to also keep as a talisman. Never compromise your aesthetic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Can you recall one of your most favorite moments so far in your career that's very close to you? Like, the moments that you feel very grateful for doing the work.
Yeah. No, there's two. I think there was this one piece that I had completed when I was 23. I must have been 23. I think so. This is 10 years ago now. Two moments. So this moment was it was the first time I crystallized really where I was going with this world and where I was going with this vision. A lot of my work before that had been kind of messy. I'd been all over the place. I'd been trying to figure it out, and this was the first time that the work crystallized. And I was waiting tables at the time, and I was in a tiny little room in Bed-Stuy, Brooklyn, paying $600 a month for rent, which was a great deal. But I was tired, I was exhausted, and I had been really pushing for a long time, wondering, can I figure this out? Like, can I really make what I want to see? Can I do this? And I had wanted to get as close as I could, because I'm never going to presume to say I'm there, but get as close as I could to Da Vinci kind of sfumato drawing, mixed with, frankly, I was looking a lot at Angkor Wat at the time, the temple's Angkor Wat, and like the way the positioning of the figures, and also a lot of traditional Indian dance, Bollywood dance, and things like that, the positioning of the hands. Yeah, and then the decorative, and I was trying to. It was the moment where I was trying to bring in then also like the decorative dots of what was his name? Daniel Brush, who had just had an exhibition at the Museum of Art and Design. So Daniel Brush, he does these beautiful gold dots, and I was very inspired by him. I still am. So I was trying to meld those three aesthetics. to what my work is now. And it had been a grueling process, and so many different sketches, like notebooks of just tries and how does this work and how I'm going to bring this together. And then it crystallized into one piece. And it was the first time that I kind of saw where this world is going. And I'm like, this is what I'm looking for. So that, and I remember sitting back from my desk and that's where that was that moment. And then the second moment was very recently where I walked for the first time into the gallery of my solo show alone and saw the work in the room. And that felt like kind of like the culmination of everything I've been working towards. And that moment was really kind of a, like almost like I got to see the expansion, like that, the first moment, that one piece, that was the spark. And this was the, everything continued. Yeah. That was pretty special. Yeah.
Not bad. Okay. How do you stay inspired when facing creative blocks?
I keep working. I'm just sorry. Sometimes I don't. Sometimes I end up online shopping for clothes, and I spend too much time doing. No, this is not a good. No, it's very bad.
Not good for the pocket.
No,
for sure.
No. Sometimes I go downstairs and I make cookies and I eat half a thing of cookie dough, which I also don't recommend. But what I'm trying to do is sit down and actually work. And that's when I make progress. So when maybe to answer, when do I break through after I've done procrastination
all of that.
And things? Yeah, all the
cookies
other
and
stuff.
Shopping.
Yes. Like, well, now it's transferred to furniture shopping because we bought a house, but that's a different conversation.
That's
no,
really heavy on the pocket.
Yes,
clothes were still okay.
Problematically so. No, but sometimes I have the app Freedom, and I'll do this like the nuclear option where I'll just like block everything. Like I'm not allowed to go on Reddit. I'm not allowed to go on online shopping. I'm not allowed to even check my email. I'm not allowed to do anything. And the only thing I'm allowed to do is sit with the problem. And I have to do 18 million. And my goal is I have to do as many different iterations as possible and try things. And if the only thing I can do is sit there and think about it, then that counts as time working towards it. Yeah. But that's what I found is the best way. And also works best if I sometimes if I tackle it afresh the next day. But yeah, I kind of have to pin myself into a little box, a corner with it. And I'm like, all right, I have to figure this out. Yeah. So, yeah.
Early morning or late night? Which is your preferred time for creating?
Always early morning. I cannot help it. I wake up I actually hate this about myself because it's really bad for socialization. And it's really not the norm, which means that it's really hard for me to go out and get dinner. But my body just naturally wakes me up between 4:30 and 5:30.
Okay.
Like I'm just up and I can't help it. So.
And when do you go to bed then?
Well, like I start getting tired at like 8:30 now. I'm trying to push it back. Yeah.
Colors or black and gold? Where do you prefer if you were to choose?
Well, I mean, I work with black and gold so much because I love that combo. I think, it's like it feels like, black and yellow feels like a danger combo for the psyche. But so black and gold kind of, to me, it has that.
It's like light and shadow.
It harkens a little to that. Yeah, exactly. It like harkens a little bit, but it's also beautiful.
Yeah.
But I'm also, I'm slowly very enamored with color, Yeah. So I don't know.
Let's see where this goes.
Both.
Creativity or perfectionism? Which is more important to you?
Creativity is the compass. Perfectionism is the tool. I enjoy perfectionism. It's fun.
That is why I was looking forward to what you'd say, because when I see people's work, who are like, so I have this thing, like, even though I love looking at people who loosely draw and have that kind of aesthetic, no matter how much I try that, I just can never find that in myself, because I have this urge of bringing things to perfectionism. Like I can't ignore it. Like that is who I am. Even like I can't let go it that easily. But I've accepted that I like to look at that kind of work, but I may not necessarily make that kind of work.
I'm the same. Like I definitely like I love sometimes that more lyrical,
Yes,
like just beautiful. And you can just tell the person is just like a
yes,
relaxed human
yes.
being who just
Like
effortlessly
it's like
makes beauty.
it's like a rhythm. It's like flowing like a river, and like you can feel it.
They float into a room and just manifest beauty. It's
Yeah,
like God,
yeah.
like
I can
I
feel that.
admire the hell out of it.
And I have such
Yeah,
I struggle a lot with this, a lot. I've tried a lot of times. I feel like I go crazy to an extent. Like I've gotten better, definitely better.
yeah,
But I know that I try too hard, and I feel that it's not me, because when I
yeah,
try to do that, I just don't resonate with it. Like I try myself, push myself too hard. So like for someone
yeah.
I think who has that kind of thing, and I can't do without creativity. It's not like my process or who I am is driven by perfectionism. Creativity is your soul, but also doing things with that spirit is also a
Yeah, it's very no, I'm 100% with you. I'm 100% with you.
one last question. What piece of advice would you like to give to people who are listening to this episode who may have a similar path as yours, or who just, who are beginning their careers, in their careers, or anything they would take away from this episode or this conversation?
Yeah, I think you know what? Like I think I've had the privilege of teaching people throughout the years, and the one common thing I found is don't be so hard on yourself.
Yeah.
You know, like you're okay. You know, the people who you think are geniuses are really not. They've just been doing it for 10 years longer, and that's it. And if you beat at
Yeah.
a door for 10 years, you're going to get there too. But also, you know, chase the joy in your practice. You're not a bad person if you didn't get to work on this weekend. You're not a bad person if you're not a bad person if you haven't been as disciplined. You're not as
Yeah.
a bad person if you feel like you have all of these ideas and you just don't know how to accomplish them or make them happen. And you're just a human being who is dealing with the most universal struggle. And that voice in your head that's constantly telling you you're inadequate, every single artist has that, and it's relentless and it will never go away. And your job is to pat it on the head and then say, okay, and then and then just let it keep chattering away, but don't listen to it because it's
Yeah.
never going to go away.
I love that.
I think that, follow the love, follow the joy. That voice is never going to go away. Don't, and you're okay. I guess, honestly.
Oh my God.
Yeah, I know that sounds like a kind of a trait, but having worked with a lot of artists, I just am staggered by how universal
This
the
platform.
creative, the stuff that people really wrestle with, how universal it all is. So
Wonderful. Oh my God. I think I am so glad we had this conversation. We're way past our time, but
oh
I
yeah,
just
sorry.
wanted to stop. No, no, I'm
This
sorry. I
was
mean,
a
I took a lot.
joy. This was so awesome. I can't I want to come to Taj and meet you at some point. Agra, excuse me. Yeah.
Yes, and then we'll
Yeah.
do like a lot of gold shopping, and I'll take you like, oh, that'll be a
Perfect.
yes,
I'm
yes.
dying. I'm dying. So it'll happen.
I have
It'll
to.
happen. It's gonna
And I think,
happen.
when I decided to take this call of setting up the studio and gallery, and I was like, you know what? I have this whole beautiful community and people that I love, that don't live where I do. And maybe this is my part in their lives to create something so that they can come here and we can still do the things that we're doing right now, but probably not
Yeah.
over two screens and like really in the real life. So this is
Yeah,
one of my goals.
absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. It's so important the work that you're doing with it. So
Mhm.
keep going. It's great.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much. And thank you for everyone who tuned in. I know this has been a long episode, but I am so, so excited because sometimes I feel like this is what I really love. When I get into an episode and I have no clue where it's going to go. And walking out of this episode is like, we've spoken about so many important things and so many, like, it's like a
Yeah.
therapy for me. Like, this is my art school. This
Yeah.
is how I'm training
Me
myself.
too. Yeah, yeah, totally. That's good for you. No, it's
Yeah.
100%. And you're creating that art school for all of the listeners too, and also for the people taking part.
Yes.
Again, like I sit up in my little attic studio, drawing flowers all day alone, listening to, Brandon
Book.
Sanderson books and, just, which I highly recommend. If anybody hasn't listened or read Mistborn, you must. It's so good.
We have another
Anyway.
book recommendation. So yes, it's been a very, very wonderful time. I know we have some amazing takeaways from this episode, from talking about a purpose, from talking about hard work, aesthetics, value, being worthy. I think one way I would really sum up this episode is about being worthy. I think this is so much of what we deal with as artists. We feel too much, we absorb too much, and we give too much. And in that process, we're always dealing with who we are. Are we worthy enough? Is this worthy enough? Is our work worthy enough? And this is a reminder, you are worthy in all aspects. So thank you so much.
100%.
Thank you so much,
Thank
Alessandra. I am so, so, so grateful. You've summed up my day. Thank you so much. One last thing before I'd let you go. One last thing. For anyone who's listening to this episode, where can people find you? Take the stage, let them know how they can support you, how they can support your work. If you have anything upcoming, we want to shout on top of our voices. So let us know.
Sure. So right now, I'm on several platforms. First off, my website is very simple, alessandramaria.com. And it's spelled ALESSANDRA, then Maria, MARIA.com. My Instagram handle is a little different because I couldn't get Alessandra Maria. So it's Alessandra Draws, DRAWS. So Alessandra, then Draws, DRAWS. I have a TikTok now, and that is, I'm very much new to it. I'm still kind of bad at it, but I'm learning. I only have 50 followers, so definitely follow me on there if you can. It's at Alessandra Maria Art, ART. So Alessandra Maria Art. So those are the main areas that you can find me. I'm trying to think if there's anything else that I should be mentioning. I have, I'm represented by Gallery Fledermaus, which is, that's Gallery Fledermaus, which is a Chicago-based gallery. And he has me coming up for some group shows in, Seattle and the Hamptons and Miami and, I don't know where else, but, he always has a bunch of art fairs. And I also have a show in, coming up in Seattle with Rock LaRue Gallery. My work's currently on display in Los Angeles at Corey Helford Gallery. And we're just going to leave it at that because there's another one and I am forgetting it right now. So, sorry, very, very professional. Yes. Sorry.
Well, I mean, that's legit. I mean, when you have so much work, you're doing so much work, you can't, memorize all of it.
That's great. No, that sounds really obnoxious. No, it's all really good things. That's very unprofessional. I should be a little bit more organized with that. I apologize. I got it. Zach Tudor, Supersonic Electronic Blog online gallery exhibition with him. So that's it. That's this one. That's the one that I wanted to mention. All right, now I'm done.
Yes, and I'm going to list. So anyone who needs this all at one place, you go to our website, look at Alessandra's episode. You'll find her work, all the galleries, all the links she's mentioned, all of it at one place. Sorry, do you not want to add your print shop?
Oh, my print shop. I do want to add my print shop, of course. Well, it's because I'm putting it under construction right now. But I'll send you, I have a Shopify. So I currently have a temporary print shop with Shopify up, and you send in the orders. I currently will fulfill, the orders, so it comes to me. I have my printer right there. But I promise it's very, the prints are super high quality. They're on 100% cotton rag. They're designed to last for upwards of 500 years. I'm working with only the finest materials. I wanted it to be something that is a real value. And I'm color correcting all of the prints, making sure that it's good. So I will link that as well. So yes, that's the shop that's available right now. I am moving it over to my website, but for the next month or two, it's there. So definitely.
Perfect. Yes. I hope by the time we put this out in the world, we have your shop ready. If not, this is still going to be out there forever and ever.
Yeah,
So yeah.
definitely.
So thank you so much. Thank you, everyone. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you, Alessandra. I'm so glad because when we started, your room was dark. I could see nothing through your windows apart from a
Oh
little fire.
yeah, I
And I've
know,
seen,
Chara. I know I shouldn't be moving it. Yeah,
yes.
you can see all the
Oh,
trees and things. So
wow.
we've got the light now. We got sunrise.
Yes, and I've literally throughout this conversation I've seen your light coming into your, through the
That's nice.
windows to your work, the lamp, and like, it's been a day. It's nice. It's wonderful.
A wonderful start to my day. So thank you
Thank
so much.
you.
I appreciate it and
Thank
looking forward
you.
to it. Thank
Yes.
you.